Alright, I think we are live. Yes, we are. Bad about the hobby. Hey, everybody.
Hey everybody.
Third week in a row. We're going strong. We're back, maybe. Um, so, how's
We
everybody
are.
been doing last week?
Fine.
Yeah, I am all right.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably where
Nothing crazy. I feel very disconnected from the hobby still.
um I I feel
You've
as
been
if
actually kind of consistently working on stuff, which is good.
yeah, I feel relative.
I'm always disconnected from the hobby.
I feel pretty connected. I've done some more work on the Red Gobo,
Mhm.
and I would say I can bring a photo. Yeah, I've been doing more work on that model. I would say I'm getting pretty close to the point where I think they're finished. I still say there are a lot of details and I still have to work out and everything, but a lot of the main elements in place, or at least on their way to being finished. Um, After some discussions, our chat last week sort of decided it probably made sense to sort of trying to recreate the Red Gobo characteristic called Club. Because I think, well, I don't really remember how to play Gore anymore. I'm pretty sure the Red Gobo is like a named character, and that Ace of
Yeah.
like a thing. So, so in this case, I just um found some of the more recent plastic GWs slightly smaller and used the pin device to the whole at them, and one of the two skulls, uh, top of it caved in. So I spent a little bit of time hollowing out the skull a little bit more. It's not complete hollow. I didn't feel going that hard into it made that much sense,
Yeah.
but I did remove. So I have a little more work to do on that. Like I have to add some, do a little bit of that up. And I don't quite remember the date bottle was at last week, but I don't believe at that point I had finished like and now feet are replaced with, which would be much better for the Red Gobo out in the touch, I think.
Yeah, he's prepared now.
Um, I've also started work Plugga or what carry. In this case, I'm trying to fashion it back 10 or any gun. And that I think is good. Okay, like working on replacing the barrel. I trimmed it down a bunch. It's still relatively large. But I didn't feel as if like this. I needed to make it like tiny, like with other weapons. But it's still a good deal smaller than like the original gun. And I've started sort of trimming in some of the other details. I have a little charging handle at the top of the gun. Um, and so yeah, I don't know, it's going well. And I think it'll probably within the next few days or so. I'll fit, and we'll see. Maybe I'll into starting to actually paint them all too. That would
Yeah,
be
they're cool.
fun. Guess I have to decide what to do with models base. I guess what probably would make the most sense is just to kind of have it like a desert-esque base. So pretty simple. I think I'm just going to use round base for the model as
Yeah.
well. I do think I could probably
Here's
find some of the Gorkamora bases. I don't.
I feel like it's probably not worth that. I feel I
No.
mean, if we're really going into playing Gorka Morka, like we probably wouldn't even be using the tiny trucks that they used to make that they perhaps more necessitated those tiny bases just to fit models in them.
Yeah.
And ultimately, yeah,
In some regards, while the larger base might make it such that it's harder to fit more models on, it will be like a lot of balance on.
And
Also,
a lot of the vehicles and stuff now are just bigger in general than stuff was back in Gorka Morka. Well,
Gorkamorka.
should I try to make a mold of this?
I think sort of once I'm done with the model, makes sense. Make
Yeah,
before I
I'll have
start
to see. My
painting.
guess is the silicone I have is probably old and bad. 'Cause that's how I do things. I don't use enough.
Use just a little bit of it, and then the rest goes bad.
That's right. That's right.
But I think it makes sense. It could also be a thing where if we have a cast of the model, we might be able to then just cut off some of the logos using the.
That's true.
Um,
I could see also trying to make a mold of some of these other Gretchen.
yeah, you have some of the other old, right?
I do. I think most of the unique ones. Probably not all. There are probably more than I remember.
Yeah, I think it would be neat to have them all those because I think all the even their guns, weapons, stuff aren't horrible. They're still pretty big, but I feel I would like to modify some of the weapons. That modifying these resin casts would so
Well, even just doing this red Gobo stuff, like it
oh yeah.
was, I feel much more likely to do anything just because.
No, yeah,
um,
there's a lot of effort has gone into. Isn't that obvious? And a lot of it would be things that you wanted to do.
like
If
your work to like make the cloak or like the coat a bit thinner. Damn, that would have been terrible
yeah, we'll have
to do.
the
yeah, it would
blog
get so
post
bad.
in the blog post for the model. We probably need to have like a photo or something to show the difference because seeing the original if anyone's worked with DW models, like think back to some Space Marine models, the backpack with the cape on it. You remember that cape is so thickness of the cape is extreme. That is very much the case here.
Yeah, it's kind of extraordinary.
And I sort of think it always kind of creates a dilemma, like if you were painting said model, and with it being so broad, you kind of question like, what are you supposed to do with this? Are
Like,
you
how do you highlight that bit?
yeah, and like I feel in this case, the bottom of probably will find yourself that they just in dark shadow, so you don't. But in this case as well, since the cape's like kind of up in the wind, kind of forced to at least deal with a little bit of it. So yeah.
That is true. And at least this little guy with um, two hands with the two pistols and the little like wrapping his face up. 1997 makes sense. That was, I think, was around when Gorka Morka was on the shelves.
The Rebel Grot.
Quite a while ago.
Well, and even the Rebel Grots, they were from the expansion Diganob, right?
Yeah,
So they weren't even in the original game.
no.
But what a good expansion. Or maybe the rules weren't good, but like with ideas and concepts being added to the original game, it was very good.
No, it's true.
Didn't
It
really
did
play
make
that much.
no. But it had the muties, the diggers,
Well, I
and
remember
the grots.
like immediately after, didn't you played some? It,
I did, yeah.
I think maybe you played as the Grots. Is that true? Or at least you
Graduate
started as.
school. I played some. I think I even played a yeah. I think I even played a little with the Rebel Grots. That's when I got the models.
So
Well, it's good that you tried to get them all in because I feel like with all of these things, as interest starts to revive itself with a lot, they just cost more and more money.
Yeah.
you have, am I correct? You have like vehicles, the gun
Yeah, I
cutter.
have yeah.
Or did you assemble both of them? Do you remember?
Not completely. I
Like,
like
because with that in mind, that sort of brings like those would be something that if you made more,
would be easier
then
to assemble.
it would be easier to assemble. It would be better for playing and painting because those
That's
big heavy
true.
metal models, like you just can't keep paint on. And I guess maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't matter that much, but
No, that is true. And I assembled small parts of them, but they don't go together very well. Like particularly the big lugger, I think it was like you assembled a little fan blade on the back and a little crank that other little goblins or grots are in that don't fit into it, and
yeah.
like and because of it I just didn't. Like I have the little paper sort of sail that came with the gun cutter.
Well, so
I
that
mean,
would
I'd
be a
have to go
type of
back and look
thing
where I
where
have it, but
you'd scan that and probably honestly
that's true.
like do something like that. I could see making a sail out of like plastic card or like some type of very ill.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
I will say though, like to act if like we're actually gonna play, like well, I like those vehicles stuff and having them probably make more actually other things. Like you have that little plastic like enforcer like buggy thing that the like Elysian drop troop they had their those cool
Oh
buggies.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's true.
So I have that. It's have to. I spent a lot of time actually in assembling parts of it, but I don't think I ever really got to the point where I don't think I got to the point. It's so finished that we do something else with it.
Yeah.
And I feel it's also the type of thing you could probably just in canopy and everything of it. Actually, driver that would honestly maybe work better. The game is with flat surface balance models on.
No, yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see where it goes. As with most things, I'm more interested in the actual individual stuff than vehicles and whatnot. But if slowly get to the point have a bunch of rebel grots and stuff, and it's I could convince myself to do something.
No, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been working. Slow but steady progress. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done anything. I don't think I've done anything other than still like doing photography stuff. And I guess what last week we finally got out that orc podcast, talk chatting with Brad, which was like 2 weeks back. But
Yeah, and that was
I don't
also
know.
Yeah,
sort
it
of
was a good discussion.
it was part of the inspiration to start
Listen,
working. But
yeah, we did this. If you're hearing this now and haven't listened to it, you should give it a listen. I think that it's pretty good.
Yeah, no. But
I mean,
worth listening to. Comment on our I don't know. I guess you could comment on the blog or send a message on
are there any
Instagram or
comments
something.
on the blog about it?
I think
Probably
one.
not. We don't get a huge amount of
or
comments, but we
Burton
usually
comment very early.
get a
Yeah.
long standing commenter.
Yeah,
Incredible effort.
it's
Believe.
true.
Yeah, he has suggested that one thing that he doesn't like about all the new orcs is they all have the scrapyard aesthetic, which was like a Gorka Morka thing, which is an interesting thing that I guess I never really thought of. Yeah, so gone are the days of the different factions, like the Bad Moons that had more money in or teeth
Fancier
or
clothes.
whatever their money. Yeah, so like that's not really a thing, which is kind of a shame. I guess they made newer commando models that were actually quite good.
Yeah, they're
That
good.
they leaned away from the fully clothed commandos of the second edition, which wow, were kind of wonky. I did like them.
Like a few of
Now I
them,
feel like
a
they
few of them have some callbacks. Like
have,
Captain, ever has kind of the military hat and everything, but
yeah, but now they feel like more of a Dirty Dozen, Last Chancers sort of look, which I mean is cool. But I do feel that now all of the orcs have this one sort of scrappy look, whereas in the past they tried to make models for the different factions where they genuinely did have slightly different like clothing
what
that
reminds me
it
of like the
was
Imperial,
just you painted them differently.
and it reminds me of like the Imperial Guard now stuff. It's they only look like Cadian.
And they're back on Armageddon, I guess. And why are they
There's this
Cadians? I
Legion.
mean, yeah, I suppose they probably have some lore explanation for why it's that. But why are they Cadians? I
Yeah,
Yeah,
mean,
well,
they could
that's
have
clearly
they could,
just they don't want to do more. It's like won't
I
generate
feel
enough
they could
value
have
for the shareholders. So
I feel they could have made the kits and have two different sets of tank commanders and or models inside where they have Steel Legion and also the Cadians, because it makes sense that they would have the Cadians in that a lot of or all of their current Imperial Guard stuff is Cadians. But it does make me wistful for the days of all of the different Imperial Guard factions. And while all of those old metal models were somewhat wonky, I think they all hold up and pretty good designs, like the Mordrian or Mordrian Iron Doll, the Valhallan, the Talaran, or Talarn, I guess. I maybe was adding an extra syllable there.
yeah.
All good, interesting designs that were genuinely unique, and I feel you could get a sense of the character of the people just by looking at them.
yeah, they
Now,
were. I mean, most of those were Perry Brother sculpts, right?
correct. I guess it could be argued that getting a sense of the character of the people by the models, or it's probably that's probably sort of going on stereotypes, but even still.
It was it was nice to have something. Which is interesting because like for a while, and I mean I guess they probably still sell them, but like there were plastic catachans, so sometimes they would do some of that as well, but that is kind of
Somewhat gone
Very
by the
little.
wayside.
yeah.
Like they had some
But
updated
that's like the least
command
interesting
squads.
of the
They had some updated
Wait,
command
before
squads and special.
I was gonna say before I forget about it, it should maybe be noted. Final Liberation and a bunch of the old Games Workshop games are on Steam now.
I heard.
it does
Wow.
look that way.
Wow.
Kinda.
I don't need to buy other games that I won't play, but
Yeah.
boy, I would probably
That's
buy
still kind of
Final
fun.
Liberation. Yeah. For people that maybe don't know, Final Liberation was an old 40K computer game. Specifically, it was an epic 40,000 computer game. So while it was in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, it was at a pretty large scale where you weren't, I mean, you were commanding individual squads, but you were commanding squads and vehicles and such. You weren't interacting with individual units. And so there were Gargants. So
Yeah. I think it came around the time of the second edition of Epic, so like what, like 96-ish,
yes,
probably.
around when we got into playing
hmm
the game.
It was an old SST strategy game. I don't
Oof,
even know if it was very good, but I liked it.
I liked it. Have people, the Gargants and stuff, and Goths would just
like a
fail.
Las Blast that every once in a while that would actually destroy something significant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love.
All the
Yeah,
little like pixelated tanks and units and stuff were very charming.
it would be neat to go back to it sometime.
Like
And
they have the little Talon. Like
yeah,
it
it's
does a better.
and like
They're the
Bane
Iron.
Blade and the Basilisks, and yeah, all of these interesting tanks and stuff that I feel, at least in 40K proper, people forget about because they're, at least for some time, weren't 40K versions of them. I mean, some of that has since changed. Like now there's a Bane Blade, of course.
Towards that end, when I think they got Chaos Gate, like the Xeno or XCOM sort of strategy game with Space Marines. It came out, I mean, I would say not long ago. Like they put it on Steam or something. Maybe it was Good Old Games, like a few years back. And I got it, and I actually played a couple missions in it, and it was pretty cool. Like,
That
it's
was
a shame they
released
don't make something like
on
that
the
now.
Well, how
well,
nuanced? Like it was like their chaos is. Was it?
Not a ton. I mean, it was like kind of based model stuff, but it was like it was Corn,
Okay.
I
Berserker,
would
like
I would
in
tend to
Marines.
think it's probably more interesting than what a lot of the newer stuff is.
I think it was because they did have like demons and stuff, but this was before they had like plastic blood letters and
Yeah.
things, and the Chaos Space Marines were based on like there's really old wonky
Plastic
plastic.
ones with like curved bull horns and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
would
it was
guess,
yeah, it was fun.
or I was gonna say, I would guess that playing that game, if we were to play that game now, there was a stronger likelihood that I would be genuinely surprised by something included in it, whereas I could almost guarantee any of the newer games that I would play, I would not be surprised by anything, or if you
Well,
get
that
my
actually makes me think a couple years ago, didn't they essentially release it was even called Chaos Gate, right? Didn't they release a new Chaos Gate game but with Grey Knights and Nurgle or
Yeah, they did.
something?
yeah, which
That
I
was
think
pretty well
was
received.
largely regarded as basically an XCOM
Yeah. See,
remake, but as in XCOM the newer XCOM games.
yeah.
And that
Were the newer games called XCOM? I guess they were.
I think they were, yeah. But they the general aesthetic and gameplay was different. It wasn't quite the top down, like move your little squads that um Xenonauts tried to recreate more
Oh
strongly.
yeah.
And did you all know that there was a Xenonauts 2 that was released like last week?
I knew it was being worked on, but I had
It
no
was released
idea
like
that
last week or the beginning
uh
of April. Yeah.
dang, that's cool.
I
I
guess
mean, if we
I.
start doing streams again consistently, it might be fun to stream trying to play Final
Oh.
Liberation or something and just talk about how it's going and see, like, is it dumb?
Yeah, it's an. I the notion about I know so little about where the game is. They wouldn't like stuff like that. Like I honestly like maybe some of the stuff is better than Reddit.
Well, presumably, Eric, you played Space Marine 2, right? Did you beat Space
I
Marine
did.
2?
That's different.
Was it
Yes.
cool?
That's different. That's like the main like
I
Dawn of
suppose.
War
Yeah.
type shit. Like Dawn of War had really ham fisted Visitor here. Everything's like dumb bullshit.
Space Marine 2 was a little better, but not incredible, and not much of meaning happened or that I remember. Admittedly, I played it like a year ago and it made little impression.
And to me, it feels like with those games, they've tried increasingly to make the Space Marines heroes and stuff. Whereas
Yeah.
I think initially with the games, they weren't supposed to be that.
Yeah, agreed. Dark Tide, like the Vermintide sort of
Oh yeah,
40K, that is maybe better in that regard. You
I
don't
suppose
seem like a
that's
hero. You're
yeah.
not a hero, and it's pretty dark and such, but there really isn't much of a compelling storyline because I think a very minor storyline is continuing, and they're still slowly releasing content for it. But I feel that has a bit better theming
yeah.
than like Space Marine, for example. I mean, Space Marine was fun just in the sense like it was pretty well animated, and you could, or in basically the hero fantasy of being a Space Marine and just like obliterating a bunch of Termagants and stuff. It was sort of fun, but it was very God of War, like just moving into like little rooms that
Locker
close off and then killing stuff until they allowed you to smash a glowing orb or some shit to like move on. Yeah. So it was very like early 2000s, sort of like not particularly modern game design, but I mean it was fine for like what it was. It was fun. But as you were saying, Greg, about like some of the older games would probably be more surprising. I think that's true, partially in the sense that Games Workshop wasn't as big a company and so forth, and probably weren't quite as involved in the process and as like
Yes.
concerned about their IP and how it's presented and stuff. It's more like, wow, some talented people are making a cool thing. Like, yeah, I want that to happen.
Well, I guess that
Yeah,
sort of reminds me one of the early like, authors who Hammer 1000 stuff just passed away. Is that
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Maybe yesterday or the day before.
that's a shame. He very early wrote like in stuff. First book like Draco and Harlequin and
Yes. Chaos Child.
oh cute. And I sort of remember some of that stuff as kind of, at least if you got into 40k, Warm Day to Day, and just that stuff, I imagine it would be change. At least some of the stuff that out at that time. I don't think not everything firmly
As
established.
co- codified. Yeah,
Mhm. Not quite as codified into an IP that can generate maximum out.
that's
It just
funny.
felt like, yeah, well, it's a lost cause.
Like I can let
Like
it
I just
go.
couldn't be bothered to like figure
Uh,
out what it was.
Yeah, that's
It was
funny.
actually, thank you, Mira Manga. She had a post about it somewhere. I
Oh,
guess
he did.
she
Yeah.
has her finger more on the pulse there because she's still doing her book reviews with Arbiter Ian and that type of thing.
Yeah,
And through, the various Black Library books being introduced to the setting. But she had an urgent post like to help people like me to be knowledgeable about it, but I still couldn't be bothered. So all of that said, I don't even know what's happening exactly, other than that my
yeah,
purchases are perhaps gone now.
yeah. Incredible.
But I don't know if stuff is free now or if it's just like they have their own Kindle like e-reader or something or I have no idea. Which towards that end, I wonder if like a new Gaunt's Ghost book has been released in the intervening years. My guess no, but
Yeah.
I think Abnett's writing like a two-part Necromunda related, or maybe it's not Necromunda, like a Hive City related book
I think
called
that is
Odd.
true. It's like, and why he did that, I don't know.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
it certainly has, yeah, the potential to be neat.
No, agreed.
Yeah, that's yes, are there other things bad about like
We
I can
didn't
talk
talk about the, or I was just gonna say we didn't talk about the Weird Boy model.
do we want
I
to
don't.
talk about them?
I mean, we might as well say a word or two. Yeah, as the slow trickle of new orc models and stuff for the upcoming edition, they revealed what presumably a plastic Weird Boy character model that looks pretty good. It has kind of like glowing floating shit because
I
they
like
have
that.
to make every model look more imposing, even if it's to the detriment of playing the game or painting or whatnot.
this
I
case it's
think the
pretty
mod looks
tame.
quite good. Yeah, I think
That
the
is
mod looks
true.
quite good. Like the physique looks good, the face looks quite good. I mean, I like the staff. He's holding the staff weirdly. Like I don't. Why would you
Holy
hold
shit.
it?
Well,
You
it's
would
like
hold.
he's offering it up or something, but he's not
Yes,
really in
yes,
that motion.
That's
yeah. So I don't know
weird.
why they did that.
You would
I would argue I would go almost as far as to say that it's just wrong. Like that the
that's
sculptors just did it wrong. Like we made one hand, let's uh
Yes.
invert it to
no, because yeah,
It,
yeah.
it's wrong. Wrong. The one hand, it's not really unnatural. Probably do
what would
Yeah.
be interesting to see from like where his shoulders are. Well, no, actually, no. Never mind. I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird. I still think the model is quite good, and he's a lot better than like that. The picture that they have with him, they have a piece of artwork beside him.
Oh my
That
gosh, the
artwork
artwork's
sucks.
so bad. That's probably from the animated whatever.
That
None of
is
us
Oh yeah,
actually,
I'm sure
watched.
it is. Yeah, I couldn't be bothered to do that.
yeah, terrible. But the model itself is quite good, and I'm sure people will use aspects of it for other cool things. Like you could probably even take just the head and make your own weird boy. Cause like I like the head. Um, I mean,
Staff
it perhaps.
staff is good. It's so I will say the weird sunburst at the top of it, very Age of
Hmm.
Agreed.
the point where question they really not have their own identity. They can like disreign, but I guess
No.
that motif isn't it, but it very much.
That maybe there's a new orc shaman like model coming out that uses a similar staff for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I would argue how at least model's left hand is angled in a way that very not that like to the point where like almost don't do it and hold a straight staff like that.
Oh yeah,
I
because like your
think that's
hands, yeah, you would have to like. I mean, I
Like
guess
if
if how
they like
far
bend
apart they are.
outward and I don't know, it looks wrong.
it's like Rob Liefeld designed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just wrong. I think they just. That's a shame because that. How did how does this happen?
Well, I mean, I think in this case they have these assets, turn it around, and it'll be
Yeah.
I feel
for this.
somebody could fix it, whether it's them having to sculpt the hand though,
Like for this
which is a
pose,
pain.
it's awkward and weird enough that I think had to. I don't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I could talk about a thing. On Saturday, I went to see the drone metal band Sun, and Eric, you and I had seen them quite a
At the
long time
930
ago.
Club
Yeah,
a
with
while back.
Big Brave opened for them.
Rich
Yeah,
Hammer
yeah.
Studios here in the chat.
Oh, hey.
Right. Hey, Johnny. Yeah, but I saw Sun in Philadelphia on Saturday, and it was great. Um, for those unfamiliar with Sun, they're a drone metal band. I believe they formed in 1998, so they've been going on for 18 years or something. So been going around for a
Good start
while.
edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by drone metal is they're taking like guitar riffs and stretching them out over long periods of time. Um, and slightly modulating those guitars. Um, so the tempos are really slow. There's not really a melody for the most part. So it's sort of the thing that, unless you know what you're getting into, it might seem like you start one of their songs and are wondering like, all right, when's it gonna pick up? When's it gonna pick up? And then it never does. I mean, I have a distinct memory of when I first listened to them with an album they did. It was, I think, 2009. It was around when I first started getting into metal. The album was called Monoliths and Dimensions. And I had read a review of it on Pitchfork, or some of the review on Pitchfork. I feel like maybe I didn't fully read the review, because once I started it and listened to it a while, it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, is there anything happening? I have since come to appreciate them, and it's almost like they're making ambient, meditative, long form, minimalist pieces of music that I think are quite compelling. The band itself took their name from a particular amplifier brand, Sun amplifiers, which are well liked by a lot of music and guitar enthusiasts. I think that, I mean, the amplifier brand started in the 60s. Somebody associated with the band the Kingsmen, so like they did Louie, or they did a recording of Louie Louie. maybe it was one of their brothers or something, helped make a bass guitar amplifier that would be strong enough to play in bigger concert halls as they started to become more popular. And it eventually became successful and well liked. I think the amplifier brand went out of business and then somebody bought them again and they're making the amplifiers again, but I don't think they're considered as good as the original. So a lot of metal bands, sludge metal bands and stuff like to get their Sun amplifiers. But Sun itself as a band, one of the things they were kind of following in the footsteps of an earlier drone metal band called Earth. Dylan Carlson, one of Kurt Cobain's friends, started his band Earth that was influenced by minimalistic music, and he experimented with stretching out guitar riffs and such. And they released an album called Earth 2, which I think was perhaps Earth's first full-length album that only had 3 songs on it, each of them quite long. Only one of them had any percussion in it, and it was like, now I may be wrong with this, it was like 2 cymbal hits or something, and that was it. um, but Earth became Earth eventually stopped being a band maybe in the mid 90s or something, I think somewhat due to drug issues. And then the 2 guys in Sun, or Stephen O'Malley and Greg Anderson, formed a drone metal band kind of in that spirit to kind of continue on with it. And they took their name from obviously the amplifier brand, but also it was supposed to kind of be an homage or a play on Earth. So Earth.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm
Did
fairly
oh,
certain that Dylan Carlson used Sun amps. He liked Sun amps at least during the drone metal
mhm.
phase of Earth's career. Earth has since come back and started um, playing still minimalist music, but I would describe it more as like minimalist Americana sort of music, which is also I think very good. So it's cool that the band initially had its own influential stage that was doing this drone metal stuff that I think is quite cool and interesting. And then they eventually came back and kind of switched up what they were doing, still within the minimalistic sort of sense, but is also different and interesting enough. And I think also quite influential, but in a slightly different sense. But anyway, I'm perhaps getting away from myself, but I saw Sun play.
They put because they recently released a new self-titled album on
Correct. Yeah,
maybe
they just
Sub
signed
Pop.
to Sub Pop. So they signed to the famous, I think, is it Seattle or where's Sub Pop is a long-standing independent record label from, I want to say it's Seattle, that has been going
That
since
sounds right.
the mid 80s or something. And they've released music from all sorts of different bands, um, like with different genres and stuff. But they released Earth 2. So I would guess that Sun signing to Sub Pop was they kind of wanted to do another homage to the band Earth. Um, whereas most of Sun's earlier records were released on their own record label, Greg Anderson and Stephen O'Malley's record label, Southern Lord, which I believe was founded around the same time as they formed
Mhm.
Sun. Both Stephen O'Malley and Greg Anderson were in other well-liked bands before Sun. Goat Snake being kind of a um doomy sort of band. And Burning Witch, which was also slow, doomy sludge band. Goat Snake more on the stoner doom sort of vibe. But anyway, so I kind of think that their signing to Sub Pop is an homage to Earth, and they titled this new record on Sub Pop. It's a self-titled album, and it in itself, I feel feels kind of like a return to the roots of the band, which initially was just O'Malley and Anderson, just those two guitarists playing long form, slow guitar riffs without melody, really loud. Like that's what most of this new album was or is. With not as much interesting experimentation as some of their previous records. Black One is more black metal inspired that a lot of people quite like, and perhaps is my favorite. They did a collaborative album with Boris, the Japanese. I'm just going to say metal band, but Boris is all over the genre.
Yeah.
Like different genres and such. They did a collaborative album with Ulver, which Ulver started out as a black metal band and now is kind of a weird electronica band. So like Ulver has experimented a hell of a lot too. But so this new self-titled album I think is very good, but it's more of a return to the more basic style and just recorded better.
Yeah.
So some of the more interesting experimentation isn't there, which might be disappointing to some people. And I guess one other aside, their two records before this self-titled were recorded with Steve Albini, R.I.P. So it's cool that Steve helped record some of their albums. But so they released this self-titled album and they are doing a tour right now, and it's just a tour of them two as a duo. The show was awesome. Very loud. The shows are always very loud, the sort of thing that you need to bring hearing protection. Because like you can feel the sound waves just vibrating your body. At the venue there were these fairly large chandeliers on the ceiling and you could see them slowly vibrating because of the sound. So it was very loud.
Maximum volume yields maximum results.
Yeah, that was Southern Lord's motto and is probably still their motto. But the band themselves, like their performance was pretty, I'm not going to say fully theatrical, but they were, you could suggest that something that's so slow and monotone might be boring, but in this case for me it was not. It was very engaging. I guess another aside, so the self-titled album that they just released, the cover artwork is actually a Rothko piece. And I think what's somewhat interesting about that is Rothko, his artwork, they were like very large color fields, where they might take up the size of like a building wall. So they were huge and somewhat like monolithic and not wildly varied. Like Rothko wasn't painting scenes, he was painting large swaths of color where maybe there were like 3 different colors. So I somewhat feel that the sound in Mission of Sun lines up pretty well with Rothko. Rothko was trying to make pieces that would evoke a feeling in the viewer without being overly complicated per se. And
One thing with doing like Rothko, making stuff that large, I think is difficult and
is in itself.
yeah, like there's a lot more like texture and interest in them just because of the size and such, and like it's hard would be hard to do.
So when
But
I
I
was
agree.
an aside to that, when I was at the start of my postdoctoral studies when I was at Harvard for a while, so they commissioned Rothko to release like three pieces. They hung up. I forget exactly where they hung them up, but due to where they were, the sun like damaged the hell out of them. They discolored the different pieces wherever the sun struck them. um, so due to that, some people there, I forget who, started an interesting project where they used light to recreate shone light on them to recreate what it used to look. And I remember going and seeing that. It
Yeah,
was
so that's kind of a shame that they like
yeah,
displayed them in such a poor way where the pieces were irreversibly damaged. But then I guess it's kind of neat that they came up with a clever way to try to fix that in some sense. But so Rothko, I mean, I don't know too much about his life, but I know that he committed suicide and he was in his 60s. And I know that he, throughout his work, the color palette that he used started with brighter colors, and by the end of his work, like it was just blacks and grays. So I feel like perhaps the decline of his mental health was maybe mirrored in the darker and darker colors that his work started
Hmm.
to have. And from my understanding, Greg Anderson and Stephen O'Malley have like befriended Rothko's son. I think his name's Christopher Rothko. And due to that friendship, I think led to Son eventually using artwork,
Hmm.
Rothko
That's cool.
artwork for this album. So I think it is neat in that sense that it, I mean, I'm sure that some sort
Yeah.
of commission was paid to use it, but it was done with the blessing of Rothko's son.
it's
So all very cool. Um, if any of you have any interest in Sun, I would recommend at least listening to some of their albums, perhaps go into them with an open mind, knowing that these aren't the traditional metal sort of albums. I guess another funny thing, on this new album, they kind of have returned to having song titles with kind of like punny or puns in the song titles, um, which they had done with some of their earlier work and have kind of come back to it. One of the songs is called, I think it's called "Do You Still Hear Venom?" And Venom being um that old metal band that they have an album called Black Metal that codified the name of the black metal genre. Venom itself, I don't think you would refer to as a black metal band. They were more traditional heavy metal. I mean, they were a British band, I think formed in the late 70s, and they had an album called Black Metal that yeah, eventually got used for the whole title of the black metal genre. Though, as I said, I wouldn't really say that Venom were ever a black metal band. So I guess I haven't listened to their albums too much. They have a song called In League with Satan that is pretty neat. But anyway, at the beginning of this Sun show, they had what was recorded stage banter from the band Venom when they played a show in New Jersey in the early 90s or something, and it sounded as if it was maybe all of the recorded stage banter from a particular show where they would have the singer was talking about a song, and now we're gonna play such and such a song, and then the song would start, the recording would stop, and then it would go to the next banter between songs. And like, I mean, it was pretty long. And it was pretty funny. Like the Venom singer was kind of showboating, and so it was funny. There was a point towards the end of the banter where they talked about we're gonna play a song that's like the heaviest thing you've ever heard. And I wonder if perhaps Vince, by using all that banter, Sun was going to be like, all right, now we're going to actually play the heaviest
heaviest.
thing you've ever heard. Yeah, so I don't know. It was funny and stretched out for a long period of time at the beginning of the show, and I don't think anybody was prepared for it. But nice to kind of see that they're not taking themselves that seriously.
Yeah, okay. That's fun.
But very good stage presence. The show was awesome. Support Sun.
Agreed.
So how's everybody feeling? Like, probably draw.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
That's
We
good
did
work
stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping on, Johnny. And I see you commented a little bit. I'm not sure what the woe I haven't seen this is about,
That
but
might have been the.
you oh yeah, I mean it was just shown somewhat recently, like yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, but yeah, very recent reveal. And yep, Southern Lord Records.
Well, okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We will hopefully be back again next week about what we're up to out. Uh, but yeah, thanks again everyone
Mm-hmm.
for listening. Keep on enjoying. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Next time.
Yep.